Good evening, everyone. It is time for Bright Spots. I hope you had a wonderful day, and there's just a lot going on. I saw today on Facebook that the Wheeling Visitors Bureau, the Convention Center, and the waterfront area that do all the live concerts in the summertime, they have canceled all of their concerts until at least August. So they have postponed all sorts of events across the valley. And, I don't know about you, but I really look forward to those summer concerts, not only from a performance standpoint, but from an attendee standpoint. Mike and I go to a good many of the events down on the river, and it's sad to see those end, isn't it? Yeah. So, welcome to the 6th edition of Bright Spots. I'm your host, Laurie Labishak, and I'm coming to you from the Ohio Valley, right here in brilliant Ohio, and it has been an absolutely beautiful day here. And Bright Spots was started so that we could highlight some of the good things that are happening all around us, here locally and abroad. Wherever we hear about good things, those are the things that we're going to talk about here on this show. We've got some great guests scheduled out to the middle of June, and we're working on some additional ones to add after that. And if you are here watching, please drop us a message. Let us know you're here. Say hello, and tell me where you're tuning in from. That would be great, too. Linda Weger, it's good to see you this evening. Thank you for joining in. So tonight's guest, Tim Thompson, is coming to us in a little bit, and he's going to tell us all about Oglebay Institute's Towngate Theater and some of the things that have changed because of the pandemic and some of the things that are going to happen moving forward. So looking forward to having Tim Thompson on with us this evening. And as we wait for Tim, he was having some technical difficulties getting into the room, but I'm sure that he'll be joining us very shortly. But while we wait for Tim, I'd love to know what's going on in your world today and what is bringing you joy. And Linda, since you are in the room and you've logged on, and I see we have a few other people that are in the room as well, if you could let us know that you're here and let us know that you are where you are tuning in from. We would love to know that. I would love to know that. So please tune in. There is a lot going on in the Valley, even despite the fact that live events are not happening. There are so many things that are happening online. I've seen lots of musicians that are coming online and doing impromptu concerts and, lots of great music, great ways to hear the music out there, even when you're not live. And, so make sure you're checking out some of that stuff as well. Make sure you're looking into some of the great stuff that is happening right here online, right here on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, because there truly are a lot of things happening despite this crazy pandemic that is happening. Plus, as the weather warms up, it's a great time to get out in the community and do some really some good things outside. There's a lot of stuff happening outside. Hi, Miss Amy. It's good to have you here this evening for Bright Spots. So glad that you're tuning in. So I want to tell you a little bit about our upcoming guests. So next week, so Linda says she got to watch her grandkids 3 extra days since she can't go to work, and she is tuning in from Pittsburgh. That's wonderful. I have one granddaughter. She lives in Las Vegas, so I don't get to see her quite as often as I'd like to. And I have another grandchild on the way. My daughter is expecting her first with her husband, Travis. So looking forward to that happening in November. We have that baby coming to us. So that'll be great fun for sure. So next week, Anthony Mugianis, the CEO and president of Apollo Cleaning and Restoration, will be with us. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about, what his fellows have been up to going out and cleaning and disinfecting. And Tony is an exceptional speaker. He is a wonderful motivational speaker and an inspiring man. So I really want him to tell his story all about Apollo Cleaning, and he's just one of those people you soak up when you're with him, because he just exudes this positivity and this wonderful personality that I think you're just going to love talking with Tony next week when he is here. The following week, Nikki Fleming of Artists on Call is going to be with us, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about her site that she started on Facebook to honor our local seniors who aren't having their proms and may not have their graduations. And if they do have graduation, it's going to look very different than what they anticipated it was going to look like. Many are going to a virtual graduation, and some are pushing graduation back as far as August before they, get to graduate. So she's going to talk to us about a group that she started on Facebook that has grown to nearly 20,000 people. And it might be over 20,000 now. Last I looked, it was getting awfully close. And this is a group where you can adopt a senior and show them some love, send them a card, send them a gift if you want to, just to make them feel special during this time when they are not getting to experience the things that you expect to experience when you are a senior in high school or college. So we're going to have Nikki come on and tell us a little bit about that. The first week in June, we have Pete Firmbaugh, and Pete is the founder of the radio show. That it's a live radio show that he does in Weirton and in surrounding areas. And he's going to come on and tell us a little bit about how the radio show has changed because of the pandemic, and how he has started using technology to bring that entertainment to all of us out here in cyberspace. Hi, Jessica. Hello, my sweet Micah. My daughter, Micah, has joined the broadcast as well. And then finally, the second week in June is the one that the last one I have scheduled, but I have several others pending. And we're going to bring Amanda Boner on. And Amanda is doing some amazing things. She and her husband started a business about 3 years ago. I believe it's been 3 years ago. Her husband was working in the coal mine, and they have 4 young boys. I think their oldest just turned 13. And they decided to go into business together. And they created a boutique in her closet. They started selling clothes out of her closet. Well, it has grown exponentially. And my friend Jessica Kelly, who is watching, introduced me to Amanda Boner's boutique. And it has been a blast. Other than putting a real hurting on my checkbook, it has been wonderful to shop online with her. She does these fabulous online sales, and it's so exciting, and you get caught up in that, and it's almost like an auction where you got to have that thing, whatever it is. So we're going to have Amanda on. We're going to talk about what her and her husband are doing, and how they have just grown their business in incredible ways in the past 3 years. And I don't want to give it all away. We'll save some of it for Amanda and John to talk about when they're on the show the second week in June, which I believe is the 10th. Amy Hodgkiss says there is also an adopt a fifth grader. Her great-granddaughter was adopted by a retired school teacher in Georgia. How wonderful is that? Adopt a fifth grader. I love it. That's great. That's fabulous. So I see that Mr. Tim has joined us. And so Tim Thompson is the artistic, and he's going to probably correct me, but I believe that he's the artistic director or the creative director for Oglebay Institute and Oglebay Institute's Towngate Theater. Now, I have a little bit of a history with Tim, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're also going to let Tim tell us all about Towngate Theater. So please, without further ado, let's make welcome Mr. Tim Thompson.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Oh, I'm better now. I am so sorry.
Please don't be.
Well, you know, when one of the things is what's the most challenging about this time? I think we've all witnessed it for me. I'm not a real technical person, so it took me a little while to download and get in here, but I'm so glad I am. It's so great to see your lovely face.
It is great to see you as well, and we're going to have some fun tonight. We're just going to, this is very casual. We are going to talk and just carry on and have a good time. And Micah is giving you a shout out, Mr. Smith.
Hi, Micah. I love your daughter, Micah. She's the best.
I love her too. And for those of you that are watching, Micah works with Tim at Oglebay Institute. So she is the development director there and doing a great job at that. So she's just in the family, right, Tim?
She's awesome. Well, that's how we met, because, back in 2004, when Micah was a senior at Mount Deschanel, the wonderful Mount Deschanel, I took over teaching the acting classes for Miss Kate for a year. And that's when I met Micah and Sarah Gutman and Sarah Harshman and everyone. And then ever since then, I've followed Micah's career through Florida and down at the GVT. And then finally, we got her at Oglebay Institute. And nothing could be fine. Nothing could be better. She's the best.
I'm definitely not going to disagree with that, because I love having her here close to home so that I can love on her whenever I want to. So you're not going to get an argument from me for you recruiting her back.
Oh, yeah. She's with us for good. She's going to take over. That's what I told her.
How about that?
For me.
She's going to take over for you when you're retired.
Yes, and that was one of the things, is that actually my title is officially a director of performing arts.
Ah, okay.
But my title's changed 4 times at Towngate. In 1987, I became the technical director with Hal O'Leary. Okay. And obviously I'm not a great technical director. I can do lights and sound much better than video. So it's all good there. But I came in and got to work with Hal O'Leary for 5 years, and we had best 5 years in the theater for me. I second to none. That man was amazing. I learned more from him in those 5 years than I've probably learned the rest of my education. But I was tech director for 5 years. And then after that, I left for a while. I went and taught at Bethany College for a while, and I taught at Wheeling Jesuit. And then I taught at West Liberty a couple of classes. Moved to Minneapolis, did some acting for 5 years, loved Minneapolis, but it was so cold, too cold. So when I was back visiting my family, Hal O'Leary comes to me and says, "So how would you?" And everybody always imitates Hal when they talk, when they quote him. Why don't you come back here and start a youth theater program for me? So and actually that's how Hal started the theater. By teaching creative dramatics. I was in first grade. It was in 1965. And then he did plays and did parcel players with high school kids. And then basically it eventually became the Towngate. So him asking me to do that was just an honor. And I came back in 2004 and started teaching children and high school students like Micah, and was the youth theater director. And so I built a children's theater and youth theater program for Towngate. And then when Hal retired, I became the artistic director for about 3 or 4 years, or maybe 5 years. 5 years. And then the amazing Kate Crosby, who is, just words cannot express how great she is, and what an asset and beautiful thing for the Ohio Valley. But she retired and then said, well, why don't you become the director of performing arts? So then I hit the glass ceiling. So
Well, that's great. So, and Tim and I met in 2013 again, I believe. Was it 2013?
I think so.
And we got to share the stage together because Micah convinced me to audition for a little play called Cinderella, right? Cinderella?
Yes.
Yes. Only it was more How to Tame Your Dragon. It was more about the prince than it was about the Cinderella person.
Well, it was kind of about how the prince and Cinderella met, because most of the Cinderella versions are all about her and the stepmother and stepsisters. Then the prince comes in the end, kisses her, finds the glass slipper, and it's over. Right. So in our version, you were my queen.
I was.
And I was your king. And our son was the prince, who was Zachary Michael. Wonderful. Yes. Zachary Michael.
Wonderful kid, yes.
And my character was like the football coach dad that wanted him to be able to kill dragons and be tough and show them up and be like me. And he was not like that. He was a very friendly, almost like Cinderella, loved animals. Right. So he's supposed to go out and kill me a dragon, and he brings a baby one home. Remember that?
I do, yes.
Actually, wasn't that little boy Jet Thomas, I think it was? I think he's graduating from high school now, but
he was the dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we find out that he's, being who he is and staying true to his own character, which ends up being perfect for Cinderella, because that's the kind of man she wants, someone that's compassionate and loves animals and is a good person and not a dragon killer like the prince's dad. I'm not really a dragon killer. I would never kill a dragon for real. All you kids out there.
Right. That's right. He has them as pets.
Yes.
Yes. And Michael was one of the stepsisters, and Amy Woodstock.
Amy. Schultz Kefauver.
Yes, she was one of the stepsisters, right?
She was Cinderella.
She was Cinderella, that's right. And then who were the other stepsisters?
The stepmother was Lola.
Lola was the stepmother, that's right. She was the mean, wicked one.
Oh, yeah, she was mean.
I got to be nice.
Yes, we got to be. You were the nice one, and you were the one. You were the queen that really the prince got the personality from.
Right.
Not the old jock bonehead dad king. But the king changes. He starts to see at the end.
Micah says she was a lady in waiting. She was not one of the stepsisters.
That's right. She was a
lady in waiting.
And she was comic relief.
That's right. She was. She does that very naturally.
Yes.
She has I learned this summer that's comedic timing.
Yes.
As natural comedic timing, which is really
is actually, in a lot of ways, comedy is harder than drama. Yeah. Because of that comedic timing. You have it or you don't. With drama, it's not easy, but a lot of people can play anger and angst and sadness, but the minute you have to be funny right on time, and there's a science, kind of a 1, 2, 3, boom, kind of a timing to
rhythm. It. Yeah.
Emily Good and Jessica Webster were the stepsisters. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Wasn't Emily Good the one that got in traffic? And Isha had to play one of the stepsisters for part of it? Did that happen? Something. Maybe I'm thinking of a different play. Micah will remember.
Yes, she will. She will remember. Yeah.
But that's back when we started the children's theater. before I took over for youth theater in 2004, they really didn't do children's plays. They did tours. They would go to schools, and I know Hal and Kate and Tom Stober did the Apple Tree, and in the 70s, and then like I did some touring in the 70s when I was in college doing Magic Theater and Earthlings with Dee McCorkle Gregg and Jeff Caulfield. And then was that yes about
It was
Aisha?
yes about the traffic, yes.
She was in traffic on I-470, and I mean, you couldn't go anywhere unless you had a helicopter. And we had to start. I mean, she was locked and freaking out. And
Yeah.
Isha was our stage manager. And Isha has long hair. And we put him in a dress. And he went out and did Act 1. She showed up at intermission, did Act 2.
And
nobody said a word.
I think my favorite part about doing that play was the tea, where all the kids came and met the king and the queen and the prince and Cinderella. I think that was my favorite part about doing the play, was being able to interact with the little kids that way. Because boy, when you're in costume, they really think that you are that person, which is really was fun.
Yes, that was like when we did Rapunzel recently. And there's a dragon in that, and it was Justin Sawyer.
Oh, I love that.
And it was so funny. Those kids, they still think he's a dragon. You can't convince them. That's wonderful. And that's a great thing that you bring up about the children's theater at Towngate, because one of the things when we started it, my first play was Velveteen Rabbit, and was actually when my beautiful daughter Grace was born. During that, I got the call that and I'd like to mention my beautiful wife Rachel is an actress and a CSR at Stifle, and my daughter Grace acts at Towngate and is a freshman at Wheeling Park, and is also an incredible artist. So
I think the first time I met Rachel, you weren't married yet, and it was when Bob Athey did Annie down in Moundsville at the Strand, and I played Grace, and Rachel played opposite me, Miss Hannigan.
Yep.
Yes, that was the first time I met Rachel.
That was a great production.
Oh, it was a blast. That was my first foray in theater. It was my first role.
Well, actually, I remember bringing that was your very first one? Really?
My very first role, yes.
Well, you were terrific. You were great, Grace.
Micah convinced me to audition to do it. It was the summer before her senior year. And she said, come on, Mom, we'll audition. And I said, I've never done theater. I've been on the stage most of my life as a performer, but I had never done theater. I'd never memorized lines. I'd never done any of that stuff. And so I thought, well, it'll be fun to do it before her senior year. I'll get a part in the chorus. This will be great. And when Bob Athey called me and said, I'd like to offer you Grace, my words to him was, are you kidding me? You do know I've never done theater before. And he said, no, that's what we want you for. So it was a blast. I loved every minute of it. But I give a lot of props to the people that do theater on a regular basis, because it's a lot of work. It's a time commitment, and it's a lot of work.
It's 100 hours. When you do a play, between the time that you put in, how O'Leary always said that, you need about 25 to 28 rehearsals, 2 hours of rehearsal, and then you need to double that for the time at home memorizing.
Yeah.
And working on the part on your own.
Yeah.
So you're volunteering 100 hours to do a part. And that's why, like at Towngate and places like the Strand and places like Brook Hill, we couldn't do it if we didn't have the people that loved it. And, that's what amateur means, is the love of, right? So,
right.
Actually, we're getting actors that love to do it, not doing it because they are making a living doing it.
Exactly.
And when you think of a long day of work, working in your office or working wherever you may be doing during your day from 8 in the morning till 4 or 5, and then you come over to the Towngate at 7 and put your heart and soul out.
Yeah. So last summer, Micah convinced me to audition for Mamma Mia. It had been 14 years since I did my first role in a musical. And of course, Cinderella was my second role. And then so I auditioned for Mamma Mia, and I played the part of Tanya in Mamma
You
Mia,
were
and
great. It was a great
that was
show.
a blast. That was comedy. That was a lot of fun. But again, that's a lot of work. It was a lot of time, and it may take me another 14 years to do another. I'm not sure.
Well, when you add in the music and choreography, we're not talking about
Exactly.
100 hours for a play.
Yeah.
You start adding that in, it's a lot of work. It is.
Yeah.
But something, the bond, and almost every play that I've been in, especially in community theater, you always get to that point about 10 days out where you don't know, is this going to happen?
Right.
Because you're working at all these different times and different groups, and because it's not, a lot of times we rehearse like a movie. You don't necessarily do it in a row, like from beginning to end. You might rehearse a song here or a scene there, and depending on when people are available and when they can. And then that last week you put it together, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, it's magic. It's like it all just comes together, and it always does. And but I think sometimes that little bit of fear about a week to 10 days out is a good thing.
Right.
Kind of like what we're going through now. It's like sometimes you start off with this pandemic and it's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I can't do this. And you adapt, and people help, and people, do things for you and with you, and you learn to connect, and we're pretty special human beings. I think that we're able to do that. And the thing is, in the theater and the arts, we're asked to be creative anyway. So it's just a new way of being creative. And like I was asking someone, during this pandemic, I wonder how many great songs, great art pieces, great plays are being written because people have a little bit of a time to be alone and go reflection. Because we don't always have that in our daily life.
Right.
So I think one way, and I love the name of your show, Bright Spots, because that's what we need right now. It's like at the theater, we're thinking, well, what can we do now? We can't just call it a hole. We got to find ways to find bright spots in what we're doing and not dwell on we're closed, we're canceled, I don't like to use the word cancel. I say postpone.
Postponed. Right. So for you that are watching Bright Spots, please take a moment and share the broadcast with all of your friends so that we can get more folks watching and hearing the wonderful things that Tim has to say this evening. So Tim, I'm going to ask you a couple of these questions that we talked about. So how do you think the quarantine has changed you personally?
First of all, I need a haircut really bad. I hairsprayed my head. No, I'm kidding.
I think we all need a haircut.
Oh, you look great. You kidding me?
Thank you.
Hairspray has been my friend during Zoom. That's the one thing is because it's funny. You see yourself and you start wondering how you look. But no, what's changed me is that my whole life I've been considered a social butterfly, but in person. The one thing that kept me from social media for a while is that I was social media in a lot of ways. I could go into any group and be, part of it. And I love people and I love interacting with people, but I've had to learn to do it this way. And it's forced me to be now a social media butterfly. So like one person said to me, a friend of mine said, I've been on Facebook more in the last 4 weeks than the 10 years that I've been on it, that I've actually had a Facebook page, because all of a sudden I got on it and started talking to people and communicating with people, and it made me feel better. And I started to understand why people follow social media and things like Facebook, because that I used to call snap face is what I used to call it. So, but it's like, it's changed me in that way. At first, it was a panic because it's like, how am I going to survive? I can't hug and touch and talk and be in person and be around people, but I can, like we are right now. So I've kind of went through that that initial anxiety of like, how can I do this? And with the help of people like my wife, who's better at tech, and over at Oglebay Institute, Betsy Phillips talked me in on how to do Zoom, and it's helped me learn to do that and made me think in a different perspective. You know, it's not just about being in the same room. It's just about connecting in any way you can. I've written more letters. I've written more cards. It's not just social media. It's like staying connected, and you can. So that was the biggest way I've changed. I'm learning the ways that I should be learning this new social media world.
So I thought of a question I wanted to ask when we were talking about the theater, and we kind of got sidetracked away from that. In all of the years that you've been doing theater, what's the worst thing that's ever happened during a production, or you know, that, and you know, was there something that sticks out in your mind as that you'll never forget that changed the course of the production?
That's a very good question. I got to put on my thinking cap. I do remember one time at Bethany, when I went to school there, I was doing a play where there's just two of us on stage. It's called Huey by Eugene O'Neill. And my character it's about a 50-minute play, and my character had 48 minutes of dialogue.
Oh, wow.
I blanked. And I mean, no kidding. Like, I was in the middle of it, and I remember my character had a newspaper, and I put the newspaper up my face, and I looked at the other guy that had about like 8 lines and just looked at him like, and he fed me the line. He said something that wasn't in the script that got me back on track, and I was able to continue and finish the play. And I think that I remember that because I remember what a team player he was, and how that really is a big part of theater. And it's great for kids when they do theater, that you learn to cover for each other, to help each other. He could have just sat back there and gone, ha, 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 ha. You know,
right.
You're in your own world. You're having trouble, go with it. And ever since then, it's always been the case. I've done it for other people. People have done it for me. Actually, one time we were doing a camp play. 4 little kids, first graders. They each have 4 Shakespeare lines. They do 2 each, and then they go back and do 2 each. So there's actually 8 lines and then 8 lines. And one little girl was crying before she went on and couldn't do it. So I said, don't worry about it. I'll say your lines from the wings. So they get out there, and the first 2 say their lines, the next 2 say their lines. They'll get to the crying little girl. The 4th little girl said her lines for her. And her own. Then when they went back and did the lines again, the crying girl was able to do hers.
Aww.
Without prompting them, without saying to do anything, the instinct of that one girl was help her.
Yeah.
And it did. And so that was a big deal.
I have found in my limited experience in the theater that there's a real camaraderie among theater folk. People who do theater on a regular basis, or even just once in a while, have this uncanny connection with other people who do theater. Mm-hmm. I don't see it. I don't know how to explain it. There's not this sense of competition with each other. Once the roles are cast and you start working together, it's just that. It's everybody's just working together so that at the end of the day, there's this beautiful production.
Yes.
And it's unlike anything I've experienced anywhere else.
Well, I played sports growing up. I love, like, people that know me best, actually, I like football and basketball and baseball and all those sports probably as much as theater. I love to watch them. And I did that first. And I loved playing, but there was more competition. You might have someone playing behind you and you don't do too well. They're good with that because they get to play. or who's the best, who's the star, who's the quarterback's more important than the tackle, and the this and that. And when I had some friends in high school talk me into doing a play, because there weren't enough guys, of course, that was the reason, and they thought I'd be good at it, so I did it, and immediately, exactly what you're talking about, they did. Everybody helped each other. Everybody was working for a common goal. I even have a one story when I was I was a senior when Wheeling Park opened, and the wonderful Fran Schoolcraft, who actually saved my life in many ways. I was playing football, and the football coach didn't want me to play football and do a play. So she and the cast switched rehearsal to after football practice so I could be in the play. And that summer before that, I had lost my mom. And I was in a kind of a real vulnerable time in my life where anything could have happened. It could have gone downhill real fast. Football said, no, you can only play football. Theater said, let's switch rehearsal and bring you dinner so you can be in the play with us. And I got done with that play, and I remember getting out of high school and thinking, and I was going to go to college to Bethany to play football. And I got up there, and all of a sudden it hit me, not only is this a wonderful thing to do, it's a wonderful way to express yourself, but everybody roots for each other, and it's something I can do the rest of my life. I'm not going to play football the rest of my life, but I can keep acting. And the other thing about the audience actor relationship, Thornton Wilder, who wrote Our Town, has a wonderful quote where he regards theater as the greatest of all art forms because it's the most immediate way for a human being to share with another human being what it is to be a human being. And that touched me. I went, I can pretend, or I can act to be someone else for a group of human beings about a subject, about what it is to go through what we all go through. And all of the actors, the people that love theater, that's what I think is our common bond, is that we all love to help each other share these great thoughts, these great ideas, these great plays. It's also, though, one of the things that's causing problems right now, that immediacy. That maybe was another challenge that I've had. How do you get immediate online, or connect? But it can happen, and it is happening. So
Yeah. So, of the things that have happened with the pandemic and having to change some of the way, or actually have to postpone some things, how do you think that this is going to change things as we transition back to some semblance of normal? What do you see as changes in the delivery of creative arts?
Well, one of the first things, and very important things as we change back to normal, to not get too normal too fast. But we've had great leadership at the Institute, Danielle McCracken and our great CFO, Joe Menendez, and the leadership team that Mike is on. But getting together and figuring out the best way to be safe, and make sure everybody is understanding guidelines and that we understand them. I think the biggest change is that it's not going to all of a sudden be like you're going to still need some distancing. You're going to still need some hand washing. You're going to need who knows, the programs might be virtual instead of paper. There's a lot of things, and it's mostly being prepared. And we've had meetings where, like Danielle will get CDC guidelines, and Micah might get that. Molly, who is Czech, who is at the Schrader, has been a wealth of information from the Campers Association, ACA, finding out what we're supposed to do, the different guidelines. And I think the arts are going to have to recognize that. And as we reopen, we have to be transparent. Let the audience and the patrons and volunteers know there's a new look. Don't be freaked out about it. We we have to live with this. We're not going to beat it. We're going to just live with it, ways to adapt. So we have to figure out, make sure everybody's aware of that and follows it and maintains it and gets along doing it. You know, like, don't just accept it and do the best you can, because you're saving each other. You know, when I talk about human beings playing for human beings, we're all in this. We're all human beings, so we have to share this preparedness and this this being safe. The other one specifically with performing arts is things like this, like live streaming, recording and posting, possibly doing more plays for smaller crowds. Could be a thing that's been in the back of my mind. More plays outdoors when it's nice. But adapting so we can do the arts. The arts can't stop, or life will stop. So use this social media, use this platform to be able to connect, to be able to do plays, to be able to play music. I love how these musicians are getting Zoom and they're all playing a different instrument from their home, and it's a band. Oh, how creative is that? Yeah. You know, one of the things is like when we closed on that Saturday or Sunday, we were supposed to have an art opening with Claire McDonald and Aaron Mellett and Malott. I'm sorry, excuse me. But it was called Ways of Seeing and Ways of Speaking. And we were 2 days away from it and had to stop. So Claire and our tech director, PD Gregg, and I have to do a shout out to Dave Henderson too, who's the artistic director at Towngate. But they got together and they taped the art and did photos of it with the descriptions. Claire picked some music, PD created a slideshow, and we had a virtual tour of the art.
Yeah.
So you do that. We have a platform that's called I Was in a Towngate Play that you can post you in a play. Well, everybody all over the country can look at it and say, oh, I remember that. I remember that play. I remember, oh, who's that guy second to the left? You know, and they start to connect again. I know with my improv group called the Left of Center Players, Butch Maxwell and his wife, Vera Barton Maxwell, have created a Zoom meeting where we've been rehearsing, and we're going to do a show.
How exciting.
We figured out how to do some improv by turning off cameras and just leaving the cameras on the people that are performing, and different games like with slideshows and videos and stuff that we can create an improv show. We're going to do an invite one and see how it goes. And then we found a better way to rehearse because we're all family people, and to get together is difficult. So it's like, well, we can rehearse every Sunday on Zoom and then do shows. And then eventually when they can be live again, we'll make them live. They just might not be able to be for a full house. We might have to cut the house in half.
Right.
So it's almost like, okay, we've got a negative. How do we turn that into not only a positive, but an asset? Well, maybe we have 3 performances a year for 80 people, but we do another 6 on Zoom where people can watch it many times. Maybe we can do plays where we do readings, some play readings. And I'm sure we could video some people doing some plays. The more we get into this, the more I learn of all the different ways the arts can continue to flourish in this time.
Right.
And when we get back, I don't see any reason to stop that. Make it both. That makes it an asset. That means, okay, during these hard times, we're just online. That's how we're performing. That's how we're connecting. That's how we're entertaining. And then as soon as we go back to live audiences, why stop doing it online? Now you have double, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So, and one last thing about our plays. Sure. We had a play that was supposed to open a week after this happened. You know this. I first learned about this. We had our meeting. I remember it was a Friday the 13th in March. And we were supposed to open Brighton Beach Memoirs the next week. Well, we're going to do it in September. And the play that was in May, The Book of Will, which Kathy Spencer was going to make her directorial debut, we're going to do in March 2021. So we're going to pick up where we left off.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And you sound very similar in that I am a half cup full kind of girl.
Mhm.
I like to see the positives. So even though it's easy to get caught up in the negatives of what has happened and transpired over the past 9 weeks, there really are some positives. There really are some bright spots. There are some great things that are happening. And I think one of those things is the new knowledge that so many of us now have of how we can use technology to connect, how we can use technology to keep the arts going, to keep our passions going.
Yes.
I as a musician, performing is one of my passions, and I come on every day in the morning and I sing a song. It's just my way of sharing joy with people, and I do that as much for myself as I do for the people that tune in, because it keeps me remembering that is my passion, that even though I can't go out and perform in front of a crowd, I can still perform. I can still share the joy of music with other people. And I think the idea of being able to do that as an actor, you yourself and the other folks being able to still connect with an audience only through the lens of this camera, that has got to be very self-fulfilling, because you can still connect and you can still do what you love to do.
Yes.
So let's
Absolutely.
keep seeing that.
Well, a good example, Saturday Night Live. And they were off the air for a while, and then they did one where all of the actors were at home. And the first one, not so great. Second one was better. Now they figured it out.
Yeah.
It's great. And that's how I've been through this whole thing where, I was always the naysayer. I don't want to do social media. I want to be in person. And people kept telling me, it's the future. It's what's going on now, and it's going to continue. And then this happened, and I was tentative. But then all of a sudden, we had a Zoom meeting where I saw everybody.
Yeah.
I went, you're there. It's not just a voice. It's not just a text.
Right.
I can see you.
Right.
That's great. And then we had the first Zoom rehearsal for the improv. And I was like, I wonder how that's going to go. It was a blast.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And then I started going through Facebook and seeing videos and seeing what you're doing and seeing the different things that are going on and thinking, this is good. Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
And I do see the new normal as being both.
Yeah.
Why not? It's like, aren't they showing Hamilton in not long from now?
Right. Yeah, Micah just told me that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know Danielle had told me that the Public Theater in Pittsburgh had live streamed a play. And then some, I know we had to, unfortunately, one of the hardest things to do was to cancel Parcel Players.
Yeah.
It's our oldest program. It's our high school student. My heart is broken.
Yeah.
I'm every day thinking, is there still something we could maybe do?
Right.
Right. The hardest part with that is we have to still get them together to do it. But
right.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we get Pete Fernball to write a play about 8 people in a box. And
yes, absolutely.
And write a play specifically for Zoom.
Right.
Or find a play that has a smaller cast where they can do it. I'm always thinking that way. It's like, how can we figure out how to do it? And if it has to be redone, Hamilton will be on Disney. Thanks, Micah.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. Oh yeah, I see it now. But it's true. It's like that's what they're doing. Right. Broadway's closed till September.
Right.
I just heard that. So put it on Disney Plus.
Who would have ever thought that Broadway would close?
Oh,
I love going to New York and seeing shows. I just think that is an experience everyone should do once in their life at least.
Yes.
So folks, we are getting close to the top of the hour. So we have a few minutes. Start thinking of some questions you may have for Mr. Tim, and let's get some questions out there. Please be sure that you like and share the broadcast so that we can get more folks tuning in and more folks seeing the bright spots that are going on around the Ohio Valley.
Yeah.
So, Tim, you have a young daughter at home. She's 13, is that correct?
15.
15. Wow. So, how is she doing through the pandemic? How has staying at home, homeschooling, how has all that been?
She's actually doing really great. I mean, we're blessed. She's an independent young lady, very compassionate, very artistic, and very creative. The one benefit that she has is not getting up at 6. I mean, to be honest, she's getting a little more sleep, which helps her. But no, she's doing great. She's actually doing really well in school now. She's adapted to it. These kids, she knows computers. She's been doing it since she was 4. So she knows her laptop and her how to use her iPhone and how to connect with teachers and all that kind of stuff. So she's doing great. I think that the only thing that she misses are her buddies, like being at like sleepovers, and being able to, hanging out a lot. But I think we're getting close to where they can start hanging out together, and doing some things together. But when it comes to adapting to everything, I'm super proud of her. She probably at the very beginning adapted better than I did. Mm-hmm. She and Rachel both just are very computer savvy, and they were able to connect with people. And that was really my problem, is like, how does this work? Kind of like today, like, how do I download this? But she is, and she's been, and you know what she's been doing more than anything? Drawing. Let me see if I can get this.
Here,
you see it?
Wow, that's amazing.
That's a picture of Rachel and her dad.
Oh, wow.
That she just did with a pencil.
Beautiful.
And we've been having, she's done that a couple of times. She drew a picture for Rachel, of she and Rachel when she was a baby. She drew a picture for us of the Beatles. And she's just a great artist. And that's one thing I said to her. She said, well, what am I going to do in my downtime? I went, you can draw. You're an artist. And she's been actually trying to teach herself to play the guitar, but getting lessons online. Like, you can go online and they'll show you how to do chords. Yeah. And she's been awesome and creative and dealing with it very well.
Yeah, the educational offerings that are available out there for little or nothing are amazing. And I think that's one of those opportunities that people have had, that if they have been forced to stay home and work from home or quarantine or whatever at home, they're really, I hope that a lot of people took advantage of some of those free offerings, the educational type things that are available out there on YouTube and LinkedIn and so many other platforms.
Well, that's one of the things, Brad Johnson and Rick Morgan over at Stifle, they did tutorials on clay, Rick doing pottery, and Brad, different art projects for kids. Cheryl was doing and Kim Kafana doing one-on-one lessons in their living rooms. Some really. And
Molly did some great things up at the Schrader Center.
And Molly did too, yes. Yeah. Where they would do little, like I remember going on there and saw this great little toad.
Yes.
Did you see that? It's great. Yes. And it's fascinating. I might not have ever seen that if I wasn't home, because you're too busy to check it out. I'll tell you another great thing at Towngate. Like, I'm glad you mentioned Molly. Molly and Cheryl over at Dance. They're rock stars during this. They've been doing so much to keep engaged and to help us with regulations and guidelines. And then Rick and Brad and Michael over at Stifle. But personally, for me, Towngate, Dave Henderson, a lot of times we do so many events at Towngate, we don't have time to clean or fix up the place. Well, he remodeled the women's dressing rooms and the bathroom in the dressing room. He retiled the office. PD's been doing upgrades and electrical stuff and repairs. Everything from costumes to shoes to wigs to we have put away and put in their place. So when we do reopen, it's not scattered and we can be organized. So we thought, well, make lemonade, right? Let's figure out a way to clean this place up. And everyone has had their things that they've been doing, even if it's just like, hey, I have time to do the budget. It's like I can actually do that. One thing Mike and I have been working with, we met with Unified Bank, who's our sponsor at Towngate for our main season. And Micah and Pete Fernball and I, Pete from Cloak and Dagger.
Yes.
He's amazing.
He's going to be our guest actually on June 3rd.
Great. Well, I want to see that because Pete's one of my favorites. He's amazing talent in many ways. But we're going to be doing PSAs. We met with Don Feenerty, who's our marketing, and Unified, Scott Everson and Matt Brandstetter and Chad Smith. They're all such great guys, and they've been so supportive of us. And speaking of Chad, when MSM played,
yes,
fantastic.
Did you see they had 3,500 people tuned in to watch their live broadcast from all over the world?
Yeah. When they played at Towngate, it was maybe with Horde and Jones. Mike is as good, but they were incredible. I was blown away. I was so happy.
For a three-piece band, they're amazing.
Oh, yeah. Really amazing. But we met with Dawn, and we're talking about possibly doing some PSAs with them to kind of let everybody know we're all still here and still unified. That's one thing I said to Dawn. I said, even in the pandemic, they're by our side. So, and the same thing with Oglebay Institute. When you think of our leaders, Danielle and Joe, we're still working. We're still open. We're still, doing everything we can to make the arts and nature and history available to our community. And we're not going anywhere. We're here, and we're gonna be back bigger and better, because it's not, like I said, it's not just gonna be live. It's gonna be this.
Right.
We're not gonna go like, oh, we're back live, let's not go online anymore.
Right.
It's gonna be everything.
Well, Mr. Tim, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Bright Spots. I hope that you will tune in for future broadcasts, and maybe we'll have you back once things start to open up a little bit and we can talk about the new season and what that's going to look like, right?
I would certainly love that. And thank you, my queen.
You're welcome, my king. And until I see you in the castle again.
Au revoir. And one just last final thing, actors, volunteers, audience of the Towngate, we miss you, but we'll see you soon.
See you, Mr. Tim. And that is the end of another wonderful broadcast of Bright Spots. I thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure and come back next week. Next week, Anthony Mugianis of Apollo Restoration and Cleaning will be here, and he's going to talk to us about what's going on the cleaning side, but also he's an incredible story. His life is a wonderful story. He's a true bright spot in the Ohio Valley. He's a wonderful, motivational, inspirational speaker, and I think you'll truly enjoy seeing him, hearing him. I thank you so much for tuning in. Again, this is Lori Labishak with Bright Spots, bringing you the bright spots all around the Ohio Valley and beyond. I'll see you next week. For now, keep your light shining, and let's make some more bright spots out there.